Hi, what would you say to me if I asked you, who is your hero? What would come into your mind? Would it be a sports star? Would it be somebody of a historical figure, a conqueror, a noble person? I love what the dictionary, but some of the dictionary definitions of a hero. A person noted for courageous acts or nobility of character. A person who, in the opinion of others, has special achievements, abilities, or personal qualities. Or a being of godlike prowess and beneficence who often came to be honoured as a divinity. Before I tell you who is my absolute hero in life, I'll tell you a bit of my story. I was born in 1970. I was born 2 months premature. Me and my mother almost died. We was in intensive care. She raised me, and I thought what was a family. And the guy that I thought was my father, I watched die of a heart attack when I was 5 years old in the garden. I was so excited to see him come down the path. Oh, Dad's home. Little did I know that in 30 seconds that he would have taken his last breaths. By the time I was 7, I was on stepdad number 4 and another man in my life. He was a really nice guy until him and my mum were married. And then the next 5 years I took many beatings, punches, kicks, throwing down the stairs. Christmas was always a special time in that we knew that he would come home drunk and then the beatings would start. I watched him twice in that time try and kill my mother. The first time he flipped the bed upside down on top of my mum and he was jumping up and down on top of it. Another time I watched him try and push her out of the bedroom window. Thankfully neither of those times worked. When I reached around the age of 12, my mum did the right thing and she divorced him. When I was 12, I was a real mess and I tried to commit suicide in the playground. I took some wire, I wrapped it around my neck, climbed up a tree, tied it to the branch and jumped in front of what seemed like hundreds of people. I had in the playground people around me and I just had enough. I jumped and the wire snapped. I started getting involved in stealing. I was well known to the police. And when I was around 14, I had a plan that I was going to rob a man. And the plan was going well until he took me back to his house and there he raped me. After a couple of days, my mother noticed that something was wrong. And she sat and she asked me and she said, "Simon, what's wrong? What's happened?" And I told her the story of the man raping me. After a couple of minutes, she put me in the car and drove me to the police station. I thought that we was going to report the crime of what had happened. But actually what happened was that she left me there. She said to the police, "I cannot look after him anymore. Please take care of him." In the next 2 years in the children's homes where I was growing up, I was introduced to the world of drink, drugs. I was much glue sniffing, girls. I became a father by the time I was 16. When I was 18, I found myself homeless and I thought, if I'm going to be homeless, then I am going to see a bit of the world and be homeless. And I went to France initially for what I thought was 2 weeks. And I ended up hitchhiking around Europe on and off for 5 years, getting into much trouble. Burglaries, robbing people. I was smuggling drugs, I was selling drugs, and I was taking much more. I can remember one time when I was in a church where we went for our daily meal, and I'm sat there having my dinner, and there was a man sat next to me eating, but I didn't know him. Somebody came down the stairs and stabbed him while I was there. A couple of weeks later in the same town, I met some fellow dealers and drug users, and they said, "Oh, have you heard about such and such?" I said, "No." They said, "Oh, he got shot in the ankle." Then I realised I was walking in circles that I had no business walking in. I was out of my depth. I felt like that life was useless, and I can remember I had no religious upbringing at all. And I said, "God, if you're real," while I was hitchhiking across Belgium, "God, if you're real, then I need help, because I can't carry on living the way that I'm going." Friend, nothing happened. I went to London to sell my drugs. I fell asleep on the train. I woke up in Brighton. The next day, 3 young guys came to me and said, "Hey, we want you to know that Jesus loves you and has got a plan for your life." I said, "I'm not interested." And then you can put whatever swear words you like in the next couple of sentences. I said, "No, I don't want to know." They said, "Simon, what have you got to lose?" I thought about it. I thought, right. So I went with them, and again, nothing happened. But there was a girl there that I was interested in, and she said, "I'm going to a Christian house group. Would you like to come?" I had no interest to go there, apart from the girl. I said, "Yes, I'll come." So I went there, and I don't know what is in your mind when you hear the word Christian, but in my mind was big collars, tank top jumpers, open toe sandals, and bald heads. And they welcomed me in, and I was sat on the chair and I was laughing at them. I was saying, you are wasting your time. There is no God. I don't know why you bother." And they started playing their music, and I'm still laughing at them, and they still just carried on as if I wasn't there. Suddenly I felt this presence come in the room like I'd never felt, and it sat on my knees. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anyone else in the room, just this presence. And it was like I was paralysed and couldn't move on the chair. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I hadn't cried since I was 8 years old. Such was my upbringing and my background. And I could feel the back of my eyes stinging. And I managed to break free after a while, ran up the road, and there was a church at the end of the road. There was no one there, but I was pushed down the stairs and I landed on my knees. As I landed, I had this open vision. I'd never had a vision before. Had this open vision of all these hundreds of TV screens. It was like being in a studio. And I saw every wrong thing that I had done in my life. Every wrong word. Every person that I'd stolen from, lied to, cheated, hurt. You know, it's a well-known saying that hurt people hurt people. And I was hurt. And I saw everything that I had done wrong. And I had no religious upbringing, but all I knew was to say, "God, don't send me to hell. I'm sorry. Don't send me to hell. Don't send me to hell." And after a long time, it seemed, I felt this incredible love and peace just fill my heart like I had never known. At this point, the tears were flowing down my face, but I knew that I had found somebody awesome and real. I don't know what comes into your mind when you think about God, but for me, I was quite disappointed that Jesus was the real God. I thought it might be somebody a bit more exotic, a bit more appealing as such. But I found that he really is the King of all kings. That is why Jesus Christ is my absolute hero. That in one moment I'm dirty, I'm unclean, I'm a broken person, I'm addicted with all these things and hurts going on the inside. And in the next moment I'm washed clean and I'm able to stand before God and realise that he is real without fear of condemnation, without fear of rejection, without fear of being cast away. I knew that the real had come. He was real, friend. I want you to know that Jesus is real, and that is why he is my absolute hero. And he wants to come into your life. He wants to bring change to you. Maybe you haven't had the upbringing that I've had. Maybe you haven't faced the same circumstances. But friend, whatever circumstance that you are facing today, I want you to know that Jesus is real and that he's got the answer for you. One day you will meet him face to face. It's better to meet him as a friend than somebody that doesn't know you. My friend, respond to Jesus today. Give him your life. God bless you.